Welcome to This Daring Adventure podcast, where we work on bridging the gap between where we are and where we want to be in order to live a bigger and bolder life. In this podcast, we will provide inspiration, tips, and skills you need to make your life the adventure you want it to be. Here's your host, mindset mentor, and life coach, Trista Gurton.
Hey everybody, welcome back to This Daring Adventure. Today I'm thrilled to welcome someone very special to the podcast, Nan Saysana. Nan coached me back when we were both in self-coaching scholars with Brooke Castillo. We are both certified coaches from the Life Coach School, and it was such a joy to catch up with her for this episode. Nan is a certified life and weight loss coach, as I said, trained through the Life Coach School, and she's also completed Corinne Crabtree's No BS Weight Loss University. She lives in Paris, and after years of struggling with food and her body, she's completely transformed her relationship with both and now helps others do the same. And so in the following conversation, we dive into what it really takes to stop overeating, how to break free from the food guilt, and why mindset, not willpower, is the secret ingredient. We also talk about Nan's inspiring journey from emotional eating, being a teacher, to becoming a coach, and then a bodybuilder at 50. It's a great story. You're going to love Nan's kind, simple, no shame approach to creating healthy habits and living a life you love. So let's get started. So welcome, Nan. Thank you so much for joining me on this daring adventure. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so fun. It's good to see you again.
I know. Nan was my coach at Self-Coaching Scholars or the Life Coach School, and you were a coach for several years there, right? So yes. So many times you coached me and I miss that. And I really appreciate all the work that you did there. And it was always extremely helpful. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started and how you got into coaching and where you are now.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. So, I think I was always interested in thinking, thoughts, mindset, except that I didn't know really there was something like coaching at the time. But I remember in France, because I'm French and I live in Paris, in France, when you are in the senior year at high school, you have to go to take a class, which is philosophy. And so thinking and great thinkers in history. And I love that. I really love that. And then I also became an English teacher, so completely unrelated to that. But while I was working and I had everything I had always desired, a husband, 2 kids, and so on, my life seemed to be perfect. And yet I felt miserable. And that would translate into me binge eating almost every day. And that means, having a full lunch and then followed by a full brownie, a whole brownie, and then dinner time. And then I was thinking about food nonstop. I was snacking, binge eating on the regular, and that made me really feel miserable. And I didn't understand what was going on. And that went on for 30 years since I was a teenager until I discovered coaching. And so that I kept looking for a solution. I kind of realized that dieting was actually not helping, but it was the only thing that was available or the only thing that seemed to be trendy. So I would try different diets and nothing worked. It actually made it worse. And then one day, I don't remember exactly how, but I started listening to Brooke Castillo's podcast, self-coaching, the Life Coach School, and immediately I was hooked. But I was hooked, and at the same time, it seemed too weird that, because basically she was saying that if I was doing something like binge eating, it was because of the way I was feeling, because of the way I was thinking. And it felt right and wrong at the same time. And I remember listening to a podcast and then thinking, yes, that's great, but that's weird, and stopping. And then going back to it again, and then yes, that was really relevant, and that made sense, but still it felt weird. So I remember going back and forth several times until I finally sat down and listened to the whole thing, the whole series that was available at the time, and starting really studying, because that's my thing. I like to go all in. And so I would take the transcriptions of the podcast and really underline what made sense and think about what I was thinking and ask myself questions and answer questions. And I noticed I was changing as I was doing that. I understood more and more what was going on. And I noticed also I was changing. My behavior was not the same. So that was the proof is in the eating of the pudding or something like that. It's just like, oh, coaching is definitely working for me. This is for me. There's something wonderful there. So that's what got me into coaching.
I love that because I had this almost similar experience in terms of finding the podcast, Brooke's podcast. I remember I actually started downloading it. Like I subscribed and downloaded. I think it was 2015, but I will tell you, I never really paid attention. It was one of these things you go through and you subscribe. And so I was getting these podcasts, but not really paying attention to what was going on until the summer of 2017. And I was so frustrated. I was in a relationship. I was so frustrated and just didn't know what to do with myself. And I thought, I need to just calm down and I need to figure this out. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to a podcast. And I'm going through and I find Brooke's podcast on emotional adulthood. And I sat there on my balcony and listened to this, and it changed everything for me. And that's really the beginning of the story for me. The same way, like I started listening to all the podcasts. And then in 2019, I finally joined her self-coaching scholars membership. And the rest is history. And this is what's inspired me to have my podcast as well.
Yeah.
Her podcast was so helpful to me. I don't know whether this podcast is helpful but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun and it gives me that opportunity. And I just thought I was so inspired by her and all the work that she did that
Oh yeah.
I am.
Transformational. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. That's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you became a coach. When did you become a coach?
Right. So just like you, I started with self-coaching scholars. I think it was in 2017 when it started. So
Mhm.
for those who don't know it, self-coaching scholars was the membership that she had. She opened in 2017, and I didn't join the first month, but in April, and I went all in again, and I didn't know. Because I learned so much with the podcast, I didn't know there was even more to learn, but I loved it. It was really so good. And I kept thinking, well, I want more. I want more. This is really good. And I'm really changing and I'm noticing everything. I would love to have more. And well, maybe the next step is what she's offering too is the certification program, except that at the time it was only live and you had to go to California or Texas. And I still lived in France and I was still a teacher. So when she was offering this, it was either in January or in September, which no, I couldn't go. So it felt impossible until in 2018, in summer 2018, she first launched the first online certification program. And I was just like, oh, this is for me. And I was just thrilled when I saw her promotion. And even though it was far beyond, in terms of money, it was far beyond anything I had invested in before, because it was $18,000 at the time. It was just, I never spent that much on me. In France, education is free. We were extremely lucky. So $18,000, that was unheard of for me. And yet I did it. I did it immediately. And I felt good about it because this is really what I wanted. And so I went all in certification program. My group was amazing, the best student ever. And we had the best, of course, instructor also, which was Bev Aaron. She was amazing. And I remember telling my colleagues at the time, when I was still an English teacher in Paris, and telling my colleagues, well, I'm studying this. This is really good, etc. And I remember one colleague at some point saying, oh, so you're studying coaching. So are you planning to change career? Are you becoming a coach? I was like, no. I was really surprised. Why would he think that? I'm just studying. It never occurred to me that, yes, there was an end, which was an end result, which was getting certified as a life coach. So the next step would make sense to be a life coach, but it never occurred to me. But he planted that tiny seed in my brain. And throughout the year, I kept thinking, oh, yeah, maybe. And I was certified. So in March, at the end of March in 2019. And at the same time, the Life Coach School, the Self-Coaching Scholars membership was looking for coaches. And so I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a try. So I applied. I got in. I was really amazed and I was thrilled. And then I thought, oh, okay, so now I have two jobs. So okay, let's do both together. And I had a very good time. But also it was really exhausting because I had to go to my high school to teach English and at the same time take care of my kids, take care of my house and coach. So in the evening, at the weekend, I had the best time ever, but it was really draining. And I know some people don't see it like that, which I totally understand, but COVID happened at the same time. And for me, for that particular aspect, it was a relief because then I didn't have to go back and forth and I could stay home and rest a little bit. But at the same time, I knew this was not sustainable, that I had to make a choice. And so I knew that, yes, I loved teaching. I really loved my students. I really loved transmitting something, seeing something happen for some of them. But I knew that whenever I was coaching, something would happen in the client in front of me more often than for my students. And so I chose coaching. And so in 2020, September 2020, I resigned as a teacher and I've been a full-time life coach ever since. And
Wow.
I just love it.
That's amazing. Wow, good for you. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so when did you start your own business?
Well, at the same time, because I first started actually as an English teacher coaching French people who wanted to speak English, who knew how to speak English, but who were not confident in actually opening their mouth. And because of all the thoughts they had about themselves, about their lack of vocabulary and so on. I started with this because as an English teacher, it felt the thing to do. I felt legitimate. But deep down, also, I was still struggling with binge eating, with overeating. But I knew that once I figured this out, this was also something I really wanted to help people with. So I started this first as an English teacher, and then I moved on to the overeating, the emotional eating, the compulsive eating niche that I'm helping with today.
Okay.
It was at that time too. Yeah.
Interesting. And so you began bodybuilding as well, I understand.
Oh, yes.
And so tell
So
us about that.
yeah, so I turned 50 last year, and I think that when I turned 49, I thought, okay, there's something I want to do. I want to live a long life. So I need to do something to take care of this future self, this future me. I want her to be in the best shape possible. One thing you need to know is that my grandmother is 106. We celebrated her 106th birthday last March.
Wow.
And of course, she's limited physically, but you can talk to her. Everything she says makes sense. So I'm thinking, okay, if I live just like her to 106, I want to give my body the best opportunity to be mobile, to be autonomous, to be flexible. And so I thought, well, building muscle is something I've always loved doing in my own little set, but never taking it fully to, it was just a hobby, but I never challenged myself to grow muscle, to get stronger. And so I did. And I'm still doing it. And I love lifting weights and feeling strong. And yeah, and it's challenging. And I love thinking, oh, now this that used to be so hard now feels so easy. This is an amazing feeling when you think, oh, I've come so far. And so I love doing that.
Yes. Yes. And physically like that, I think it's interesting, especially if you haven't done that before in your life. For years I wanted to run, and I'd always done a little bit of running, but I had this idea in my head that I wanted to do a marathon. And I never did a marathon, but I figured out that I could do a half marathon because I learned you can do like a run walk marathon,
Yes.
right? Like you don't have to run the whole thing and everything. But I really feel like that decision and physically doing that, it changed me on so many levels.
Mm.
But physically just taking you to that next level. And once you've done something like that, I just think it just changes your whole perspective about yourself and
Yes.
about what's possible. And it really does take you to the next level because like somehow along the lines, like I physically became stronger. And even though I might not run consistently as I did before, I know that
Mm.
I sort of broke through that barrier.
Yes.
So I could do it again and more. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but
Oh,
it's,
totally. Yes,
yeah,
challenges change
yeah,
us in the
yeah,
best because we realize, yes, we can do more than we
yes.
were used to doing. And it's really basically stretching out of our comfort zone and realizing that we can expand that
Mhm.
comfort zone. And yes, there's this little bit of discomfort when you try something new and you don't know what to do, what to think, what to, but then it becomes a routine. And I think, I don't know about you, but I find that it's getting easier and easier. I get faster and faster through the all the phases instead of thinking, okay, I want to do this, but I don't know how. And it's just like, no, I go through confusion and I get to do it more and
Mhm.
more.
Yeah. And to me, it's like now when I look at things, it's not so much whether I can do them or not. It's just, okay, do I want to do it?
Mm,
Because I know that there's work involved, I know there's things, but I spend less time thinking about whether I can do it
okay.
and more, do I want to do it? Like, what do I want to do? And how do I
Mhm.
want to spend my time? And how do I want to have fun? But I don't question my ability or
Right.
my capacity, I guess it is,
Yes.
you know?
Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing that we can do
Yes.
anything we want?
Right. At this age. And this is the thing. And are your clients mainly in midlife or are they all ages?
Most of them actually, yes. Yeah, you're right. I think the youngest one must be around 35 or something like that.
Okay.
I'm not even sure.
Okay.
And maybe the oldest one, oh yeah, maybe the oldest one is 72 or something like that. But
Yeah.
most of them are around, yes, their 40s, their 50s, yes. And they
Mhm.
want more out of life, which is exactly what I want them to have.
Yes. Yes. Because that's what I've been focusing on. Like I've been focusing on women in their 40s and 50s who seem to reach this age
Mhm,
and are going through some sort of transition, want to
mhm.
make that change, feel like they're sort of treading water, but know that they can do more, they can be more, they can feel more, that they're capable, that they're meant for more, and
Yes.
helping them to go to that next level
Mm,
and to reach that, which I think is so important, especially at this age, because I feel I
mm.
always say we're just getting started. Like there's so
Yes.
much, right? We have so much
Yes.
living to do.
Exactly, which is so different. I remember her having a client, and she knew it was a belief, it was a limiting belief, but she was still believing it.
Mm,
But she was saying that it was like once a woman is past 40 years old, it's like the due date of a yogurt. She's expired, and it felt horrible. But I know also that yes, some people in society think that way. That yeah, once you're a certain age, you're no good, which is so untrue. So
it's
untrue.
true. It's true. Yes. I think there are a lot of changes. And
Mm,
I think definitely the way I sort of want to say engage or participate in certain areas of our lives or with certain people or in certain
mm,
areas, I think there is a shift and there is change, but there's such an opening up
yes.
of so much more, right? And we're able to leave behind all of the because all of that's been done, right? Like you've got the education, you've had the career, you've had the relationships, you've got the house, you've got the kids, whatever it is you wanted or didn't want, whatever it is.
Mm,
And that's okay, that's done.
mm.
And now there's this wide open expanse ahead of us because we could live for another 50 years, like you said, or more.
Yes,
So what's possible? And anything is possible, really.
yes. And I love that idea that we can choose our future instead of settling or hoping or wishing. It's just, no,
Mm,
let's create it.
yeah.
And it's really Brooke Castillo's model. It's instead of focusing on the circumstances and hoping that they come to us and they look this way. And no, let's create it. Let's focus on the result line of the model and take the steps to be
Right.
that person, to be that version of us, to get what we do want.
Yes. Yeah.
So empowering.
Yes, it is. And it's always about being intentional and being deliberate. And
Mhm.
whether you're choosing or, yes, what you're thinking or what you're feeling. I was talking to someone this morning talking about regret.
Mm.
And to me, people have the same sort of idea like with motivation or discipline or regret. It's like it's somewhere out
Yeah.
here and it's going to somehow like, oh, I hope I don't regret that. I'm like,
Yes.
no, listen. You have the power. You have so much more power than you realize to choose whether you're motivated, whether you're disciplined, whether you're experiencing regret or
Yeah.
disappointment, and what is it? And really learning those tools and skills that you have so much more
Mm-mm.
power than you possibly realize right now. Yeah.
Yes, and knowing that regret is a choice, you get to choose. You can decide ahead of time, do I want to feel regret later on? Or do I choose that, nope, regret won't be an option because I'm going to choose that it's worth it, whatever, whether I achieve the goal or not. Yeah, I'm going to choose that it was definitely worth it, whatever it
Yeah.
is that I
Yeah.
do, that
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah. I know.
So powerful.
It does. It does. It really changes everything. So, in terms of working with your clients and the binge eating,
Mhm.
do you have a specific program that you take them through or certain pillars of your work? What have you created for your clients?
Yes, so I've created a course. I'm currently recording it, and it's really taking them through these steps. And it's I like to use three words to. The first one would be to decode their cravings. When they want to binge, or when they binge, it's because they had this craving or this urge or this compulsion to eat. And so decoding the craving is the first step, which is to actually understand what was going on in their mind, what were they thinking that created that craving. So that's what I call decoding the craving. And then we dissolve the craving. And by dissolving, I mean that we process the emotion. And it can be the craving, but it can be also the underlying emotion too, because when we are craving something, we're looking for something to feel better. We're looking for food. We think food can make us feel better. But if we want to feel better, it's probably because we're not feeling so good, because perhaps we're feeling frustrated or annoyed or sad or something, and we that's why we turn to food. So we can dissolve the craving, but we can also dissolve the regret, the disappointment, the frustration, all those emotions by simply feeling them. And I have a process to actually dissolve those emotions. And then the third step is declining food, that is to say, saying no to food. But very often people are used to saying no to food, but it's in with willpower and white knuckling it, forcing themselves to say no, like, no, I shouldn't. But basically, it's them thinking, I want this food, but I can't have it. And that feels terrible. That feels like deprivation, restriction. And and the problem with that is that very often it leads to the other side. I want this food, and so I will have it. And so it's really this shift from restriction, no, you can't have this, to I'm going to have anything I want.
Mm,
And
like a
I call it
rebellion.
Yes, I call it the diet pendulum. It's just like you're moving from restriction to rebellion on, and it's never ending. And the problem is that it trains your brain that this is the way you behave, going from restriction to rebellion, and it becomes a habit. And that's terrible because then you feel you have no control over that. It's a habit, you're powerless. But there's a third way, which is what I teach my clients, which is to, instead of thinking, I don't want this, no, I want this food, but I won't have it, or I want this food and I will have it. The third way is to actually think, I actually don't want this food. Because then, if you don't want the food, you're not going to have it. So I teach them how to go there, which of course doesn't happen in an instant, but the way we go there, it's fascinating because then we see what was behind the binge eating or the snacking or whatever it was that was bothering them. And they get to learn more about themselves and what's driving them and what they do want in life and how their relationship with pleasure is like. And there's so much there. So it's so good to see them realize what was going on and give themselves what they really want. And it
Mm,
can be simple, just like taking a walk or petting a cat or something like that, but giving themselves more pleasure throughout the day so that they don't feel like a pressure cooker at the end of the day that needs so much pleasure all at once.
mm,
Mm.
yeah, because I know certainly food, it fills a huge void, really.
Mhm.
And there's so much, well, first of all, there's so much emphasis on, there's so much focus on it. And it really can become that treat, that excitement, that reward. And we do this for years and years. So, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like to me, there's certain aspects like how do you how do you move from okay, having that ice cream or that chocolate
Mhm.
bar or whatnot to going to having that walk and making like
Mm.
because it's to me it's not comparable. It's not
Right.
comparable, right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I know for myself, food has been such a reward
Mm,
for
yeah.
so many years.
And it's good to know that for you, food equals reward.
Right.
Because
Right.
basically, food is fuel for the body. But of course, it's
Mhm.
not just that, because it's a socially constructed, it's full of other things like reward, treat. And we've been taught ever since we were little that food can be the solution to any issue. Like you scrape your knee, well, have a cookie, or you're bored, well, have this. And so, of course, it makes sense that we linked food to not just hunger, but also all sorts of emotions. And but that's something that we learned, and anything that we learned can be unlearned. It's like anything we build can be destroyed if we want to. And so the question would be, well, when you're looking for ice cream and you're not hungry, and you know you're not hungry, then it means that you're not looking for nutrients. You're looking for something else. And you can just pause and ask yourself, okay, what am I looking for? What would I love to feel while I'm eating the ice cream? When I'm finished with the ice cream, what do I want to feel in terms of emotion? Not in terms of sensation, in terms of hunger or fullness, no, but really in terms of, is it happiness? Is it rewarded, as you said? And if that's so, well, I just need to realize, and it's going to come slowly, maybe, but surely, I just need to realize that food can never make me feel rewarded. If I wanted to hear somebody tell me comforting words and they didn't, ice cream can't either comfort me. But I can give myself the comfort that I need. So by telling myself, well, you did a good job, even if nobody said it, you did a good job or you did your best. And maybe that's what I'm looking for in the ice cream. Maybe that's something else. And maybe I'm looking for stimulus. And ice cream sure contains a sugar, and that can stimulate the brain.
Mhm.
But is that the form of stimulus that I'm looking for? Will I feel more energized if I eat the ice cream? Yes, perhaps in the next few minutes because of the sugar and so on. But after that, we also know that there probably is going to be a sugar crash. So, what kind of energy do I want? Is that this form of energy that I do want, or is it really emotional? And if that's so, how can I give it to myself? So I can tell myself something, but if I need simply relaxation, what else could really benefit me, not just in the moment, because that's the problem with food. It feels good in the moment, but then there's the aftermath, and then we can tend to feel guilty and regret, as we talked about, and then that's not pleasant at all. So is there something else that I could do that would help me feel better, not just in the short term, but also in the long run? And that's when maybe the walk or calling a friend or playing a game could be another option. But then I need to change. I need to see what was driving me to the ice cream. I need to decode those thoughts, and I can dissolve the emotion that was leading me to the ice cream, and I can take something else, take
Mhm.
another action if I
Right.
want. It's still
Right.
possible to eat the ice cream, but just knowing what's going on,
Sure.
that feels empowering.
Right. And I imagine too, it's also a challenge to just slow yourself down and go through that process at times, especially because I feel like there's this frenzy sometimes if you're like ice cream
Mm,
or chocolate, you see something and it all happens
totally.
very quickly, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I like to see. So I'm French. So we the accordion is an instrument that we do play in France. I don't. Some people do. But I like to see the model just like an accordion. Sometimes it's stuck. And so it seems as if it's this time of the day, very often end of the day, and all of a sudden you realize you're eating ice cream. And so as if it's an accordion that's stuck. That's in just one piece. Then what we do in coaching is that we develop the accordion so that there's space and so that we can see the different steps. Yes, it's nighttime, and yes, you're eating the ice cream, but what was between those two steps, those two different moments? And there's a thought and there's a feeling that led you to take this action. So that can be interesting. But you're right, in the moment, it's very hard to slow down. So very often we start after the fact, and it's okay. It's just one step. You notice, oh, I ate the ice cream again when I didn't want to. So what was happening? It's okay to do it afterwards. But I also love, so I'm being coached by Sarah Arnold Hall. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's
No.
amazing. I think she's another amazing coach. And the other day she was saying, well, let's think of what you're feeling a bit reluctant to do as your favorite activity. What if this was your favorite activity? So I've decided that, yeah, I'm just like anybody else. And when I notice that I want to reach for the chocolate, this is my thing, of course, I want to go straight to the chocolate because I know that if I explore my thoughts, then I probably won't get this reward of chocolate. So I'd rather rush and get the chocolate. But what if slowing down, pausing was actually becoming my favorite activity now? And then that makes it fun to slow down, to notice what I'm thinking. Doesn't mean that I deprive myself from having the chocolate, but I'm going to have a different experience with it. And I love to slow down indeed, and also slow down when I eat, because if I want to feel good with the chocolate or the ice cream or whatever, then let's enjoy it. Let's really take our time and savor each and every bite. Because if I do think it's pleasurable, well, let me enjoy it.
Yeah, I like that. That's very helpful. And the other thing, I don't know whether you do any visualization as well, right? Because I was trying to think, I was speaking to a client the other day, and I can't remember the exact circumstance, but usually what I recommend to them is in the moment, don't want to necessarily be reaching for a new thought or trying to do something different when you're already in it. So I recommend practicing ahead of time, choosing how you want to think, how you want to feel. So in this circumstance, let's say ice cream at night after dinner, watching TV, going through that visualization. Okay, what do you want to think if that craving or that urge comes up? How do you want to feel? And can you visualize yourself going through that process and choosing the outcome that you want, right?
Oh, I totally agree. No, I love
Yeah.
that idea. And yes, and I see the benefit of visualizing when you're not in the moment, because if it's not the evening and you're not exhausted after a long, stressful day, then you're going to be more available mentally, emotionally speaking, to do that. And also, I love that there's science to back it up. That I remember listening not so long ago about somebody who was talking about basketball players, and they had three groups of basketball players. One, they didn't ask them to do anything. A second one, they asked them to train and to practice and get better at, I don't know, putting the ball in the basket, I suppose. And the third group, they didn't ask them to train, but they asked them to visualize themselves putting the ball in the basket. And what they realized after the study was that the people, of course, who practiced physically were getting better. I think it was 34% or something like that. And the people who didn't practice physically, but in the head, I think they were at 33% progress. So that's huge. And it means that the brain learns even when we're not actually doing it. It can't tell the difference between when we are actually doing something or when we're thinking about doing something. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I have very vivid dreams. And throughout the day, the next day, I'm thinking, was it real? Was it not real? I get confused. And it's the very same with visualization. We get confused, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And we solidify, we train our brain to think this new way so that it gets even better, faster, easier when it's the evening and we're exhausted, etc. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Exactly. No, there's lots of good work to be done for
Oh,
sure.
yes.
And I appreciate that. And I love the work that you've been doing. And thank you so much for sharing all of this today. And I also want to mention that I also have started a new podcast called Ask a Coach. And Nan was episode 1. She shared an excellent piece of advice for new coaches. So I was thrilled to have you on as a guest there. And I will include the link to that program as well in the show notes, because if you're a coach, you're definitely going to want to check out and listen to episode 1 of Ask a Coach with Nan. So thank you very much for your participation there. And to wrap up and to close out here, what are you excited about? Is there anything you're working on? Anything coming up that you are excited to share?
Yes, well, I'm really excited about a webinar that I'm doing on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday I'm doing the webinar, but I love this idea of Kaizen, this Japanese philosophy, which is you do it again and again, and it's just like the basketball players, basically. You just keep on improving each time you do it. And so every Tuesday I do this webinar. So I keep tweaking it and make it better and better. And so you're very welcome to join me if you want. The topic is to stop overeating now without the guilt, without the shame, without the idea that we're going to start again, start all over on next Monday, and really talk in detail about all those tools that we've mentioned today. And I think it's super fun.
Okay.
You're welcome to
Okay.
join.
Thank you. Yeah, well, maybe we can put the link in the show notes as well so people can find that easily. And that's great. Okay, good for you. Every Tuesday. That's amazing. Excellent.
A lot of fun. Just like it was a lot of fun to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. And yes, it was a pleasure to have you. So, all right. Take care. Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Daring Adventure podcast with your host, Trista Gurton. We hope you enjoyed the tips and conversations on how to get excited about life again. As always, you can head to tristagurton.com for additional resources and to book a one-on-one coaching session. You can also follow Trista on Instagram at Trista V. Gurton. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.